Your lymphatic system is essentially your sewage system in your body, okay? So the plumbing or the pipes in your home, that is essentially the lymphatic vessels, okay? That is the thing that collects the waste. And then as it is collecting the waste inside of the lymphatic system, which is a little bit different from our plumbing system, it's neutralizing these particular wastes. It's not only the waste you think of in terms of, chemistry, toxicity, but waste in the form of bacteria, viruses, even cancer, okay? Even excess cholesterol, even acidity as well too. Now, put that all in one place. What does it sound like? Mucus, acidity, okay? Cancer, viruses, bacteria. And what does it look like when it's coming out of your skin, that pus or the bumps? Mucus, the ooze and the pus is the infection, okay? So what is this telling you? It's telling you that not only do you have a lymphatic issue, because the bumps are primarily in the areas where the lymph nodes are, which is essentially the toilet stools, where you dump the waste out into the sewage system. Okay? So you got the toilet systems are backed up, and all this mucus is coming out of the toilet. All of this acidity is coming out of the toilets. All of this waste is coming out of the toilets. Now, I want you to put this in perspective for people who have psoriasis, people who have HS, people who have acne, especially severe forms of acne. The reason why it's painful, if you think about what we just talked about, it all makes sense now. If you got acidity coming out through the skin, of course that's going to cause you to not only to be irritated where you want to itch it, but for it to be painful. It's acidic. When you got waste coming out, when you got a lymphatic system that has bacteria, viruses, cancer coming out, of course it's going to lead to potential infection coming out of the skin. Now, what's really important to understand is this. You may be asking yourself, why is it specifically coming out of the skin? Because some of this waste also could be dumped out in other places. Well, the reason why it's coming out specifically through the skin is probably because the other detoxification pathways are clogged up. All right? The liver isn't functioning like it should be because it's probably at a state where it's a fatty liver, where it's a inflamed liver. Okay? So the liver isn't processing these toxins like it should be. All right? What's another detoxification pathway? Your digestive system, bowel movements. Most people are constipated. Most people think having a bowel movement every other day is a normal thing, when you should probably be having a bowel movement for every meal you have. So if you have 2 meals a day, you should have 2 bowel movements. Where's the other waste if you're not having a bowel movement every meal? It's being backed up into the system. Same thing with the kidneys. How many people are you hearing about today who have kidney issues? Okay. Most people who have high blood pressure eventually have kidney issues. Most people who have elevated blood sugar levels have kidney issues. Okay. So the kidney isn't able to get the uric acid out, which we call urine. So it backs up into the system. When it backs up into the system and the kidneys aren't functioning as a detoxification organ, the liver isn't functioning to process these toxins like it should be, the digestive system isn't removing the waste, the body will say, well, can't get rid of it through the bowels, can't get rid of it by processing it through the liver, can't get rid of it by moving the uric acid out through the kidneys. Let's send it out through the skin. Okay? And this is when you see the havoc wreaking, the severe acne, the psoriasis, the hidradenitis suppurativa. This is when you're seeing this, because all of these detoxification pathways are blocked up, but more specifically because you're putting so much waste into the body. And what people don't think about is the skin is not only the largest organ of the body, it's the largest detoxification organ, which means that It's the largest surface area to get rid of toxins. Now, that's not the primary way that the body would like to get rid of it, because the body already has a very specific way it likes to get rid of certain types of toxins. But when these other areas get clogged up, stagnant, and backed up, then the skin becomes the only option. Okay? And you're lucky that it's coming out through the skin, because otherwise, if it's accumulating inside of the body, it's going to not only ruin the tissues, but it's going to ruin your health to a fatal level. So it's just really important to understand that this is the perspective that people need to understand. So when you see these bumps, when you see these boils, when you see these abscesses, the lesions, the scarring, the infection, the pus draining, what you have to think about is the big picture. What is your body trying to say to you? Because there are ways to get things out of the body, and it's not supposed to come out through the skin in that way. If it comes out through the skin, it should come out in a very slow fashion where it's almost unrecognizable. Okay? So it's just really important to understand that perspective before we get started with what the causes are and what those solutions are. But most importantly, you need to understand that you have to heal from the inside out, not from the outside in. So putting things on your skin is not going to heal you, which is why when you look at these, when you look at the typical treatment modalities, this is why they don't work. Putting things on the skin does not correct the issues that are going on inside of the body and the causes, which we'll talk about in the first place. Antibiotics aren't the issue, okay? A lack of antibiotics aren't the issue, okay? And biologics, certainly we do not have a deficiency in biologics like Humira and other drugs. So it's just really important to understand that at the end of the day, you have to heal from the inside out, okay? Which means that these conditions, again, doesn't matter if it's HS, psoriasis, severe acne, doesn't matter what it is. It's telling you that you're putting acidity in the body, you're putting toxicity in the body, you're putting waste in the body, and that is compromising the body's health. That's what it's telling you. And it's compromising the body's ability to remove toxins. All right, so hugely important. If you have that perspective, when you see the boils or the flare up come, you can immediately think about, what have I been eating this last couple of days? What did I eat? What did I put on my skin? What did I put in my hair? How have I been stressing? You can think about all these things and immediately say, I did this to me. And now you got accountability, but you also have empowerment. Okay, you don't feel like this just happened out of the air. You can control this. You could do something about it. That's the most important thing that I want you guys to understand. This is going to empower you, because when you go into a modern medicine setting, none of these things are going to be addressed. None of these things are going to be talked about. None of these things are going to be considered. You'll just be taking cream, ointment, antibiotic, biologic. Cream, ointment, antibiotic, biologic. Cream, ointment, antibiotic, biologic. You're just going to go back and forth for 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. Trust me, if you've experienced any of this, please put it in the comments so that people understand that, you know, people are going through this. And it's not only does it not feel good, but in my opinion, when you don't look at a patient's lifestyle, what they're eating, when you don't look at the potential causes, in my opinion, that's medical neglect. Okay, so hugely important to understand that you could do something about this, and this is your responsibility. Own it so that you're being empowered. Okay, hugely important. All right, so let's jump into what are the causes. All right, we're going to blaze through these so that you can understand truly what the causes are. Number 1, high insulin levels and blood glucose levels. Okay, blood sugar levels. All right, elevated blood sugar leads to elevated insulin levels. Okay, when your sugar is high in your body, all right, it's going to cause insulin to be released. this is going to trigger a cascade of things. But most importantly, it's going to trigger the number two cause, which is inflammation. But it's also going to trigger mucus production in the body, because that's what happens when your body gets inflamed. To put out the flame, you produce mucus. Okay? To put out the flame, you produce mucus. So sometimes you're producing mucus because you got a lot of inflammation. All right? Same thing with smokers. Like if you smoke cigarettes, which we're going to talk about in a second. All right? You're putting fire into your lungs. Fire into your lungs is going to cause inflammation. To put out the inflammation, your lungs are going to produce mucus. Okay, that's how it goes. So that's why with smokers, they always have a smoker's cough. And they're always rattly because you're putting fire into the lungs, which causes inflammation.